Hello again, everybody. It's Harry Boxer, the Technical Trader at thetechtrader.com. It's Saturday morning, March the 25th. This is the weekend webinar. We have a lot to talk about, folks, to say the least. Excuse me. You can see that in reviewing, you've had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave decline. A basic LA wave drop that took the indices, and especially the S&P 500, 48.18 to 34.91. And then a 1, 2, 3 wave move with the fourth wave corrective. If we're going to get a fifth wave off of this move, then we got to pop up to the 40, 50 to 4100 range and move to 4190 and then 4300. It looks to me like that's the next leg that's being called for. Any move below this double bottom area of the trend line could be disastrous and lead all the way down to 3500 at some point, at least 3650 for starters. So I'm still biased to the upside, but we'll see what happens. And why? Look at the NASDAQ 100. After a 5-wave decline here, it formed a double triple bottom area or W bottom base type pattern. Broke out, 3-wave corrective flag, and another breakout. It's right near resistance. If this gets to 12,945, I look for 13.7 to 13.8, somewhere in the order of 800 to 900 points at least on the NASDAQ 100. And that could lead as a positive divergence to what we're seeing on the S&P, which is trailing. Simple as that. So either this is a negative divergence and non-confirmation, or the NASDAQ 100 is leading the way and it's going to drag the S&P with it. That remains to be determined for now. What about the other indices and what they look like? Transportation's still weak, very little bounce, made a lower low, matter of fact, made a 3-month low on Friday morning before bouncing from 13,486, finishing 13,706. Nice big reversal there. And edging into positive territory at the close. Is it pretty? No, that trend line was broken there. Moving averages have rolled over. Unless we get the trending back up against above 14.1, we still have a problem with this non-confirmation from the transportations, which is a basic Dow theory forecast as a negative. Small caps, well, the IWM, which tracks small caps, looks very similar to the transportation. It's dropped from 199 to 168, 67, 32 points. Very weak, but it did bounce off of the pullback low on October. Keep an eye on 167.45 area going for next week with key resistance now upwards of 177.79 zone. Right there. So we're not getting any support from IWM or the transportation or the S&P 500. So you can see why NASDAQ 100 is all on its own right now. Now, I don't know if those leaders can take the market and just pull them back up, but we'll be watching to see what happens next week and whether we get a follow through. And the key is going to be, can the NVDA take out Wednesday's high of 12,943 and lead the other indices higher? Not so sure right now. Let's look at the underlying technicals. McClellan oscillator, which got down to minus 252, sorry. That's the lowest level we've seen since September of last year, and one of the lowest readings we've seen in the last 5 years. So it did get a bounce and got up to plus 22, but then pulled back down quickly to retest the minus 137 area before a big bounce on Friday. Took it from minus 137 to minus 39. About a 100-point snapback in the index, and here's what it looks like on the 1-minute chart. Intraday. The percentage of stocks above the 40 took a bounce, but it did get down to almost single digits, 1279 from a high of 80 some odd, just beginning of February. So we've had a pretty substantial drop, and you see the low count reading at 1279 was in the same range we've seen over the years, where some rallies have started, but not all. And the market awfully does get deeper, where this number gets down in the 5 to 7, 8, 9 range. So I'm not so sure this is done yet. And of course, it's enough for a rally back, which we're getting potentially, but not necessarily calling a major low in here, not necessarily yet. The VIX really had a pop, but it pulled back. Finally, for the first time in 5 or 6 months, we saw a pop in the VIX. It took it from 18 to 31 nearly, and then it pulled back a sharp one. It took it under 20, just slightly around the 20 range. It's 21.74 right now. Well, let's look at those technicals underlying the indices, and we'll see where that leads us. But right now, it's indecisive. The leading components of the NASDAQ 100, the generals. Apple looks great. This is a left shoulder head, right shoulder type inverse head and shoulders and a breakout last week. So, you know, from what we're looking for now is can this line be tested and or taken out? Resistance on Apple is 164.25 and then 167.25. You get through that, you're looking for a retest of the highs. So far, so good. You can see this from the January low, when Apple tested 124.5 range, it's gotten up to 162. It's a pretty big move for Apple, and that's why the market's firm to a certain extent. Amazon doesn't look great. It's been in a large decline. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave down, and then this basing attempt in here. Now we had a big pop. It was an island reversal negative. It certainly led to that drop, but it's reversed subsequently. And last week spent a whole week consolidating in the zone between 96 and 102. If we can get above 102, I think we got a run at 105 coming to test the declining top line, and then maybe back to 112.13. But right now, we cannot see Amazon take down under 95.5. This is key for it, and it's above the moving averages, and that's a good thing, and above the VWAP as well. So that's a positive for both Amazon and, of course, Apple, which is way above all of those. What about the others? Well, Google, not bad. You can see the pop and explosive move up through everything. And then finally stalling a little bit near the 107.8 zone. The high was 107.5. This high here, 108.82. So we got a couple of points of pushing to get through this base pattern. Your next targets are 112 and 117.18. But again, a triple bottom and the decline through declining tops line is leading me to believe this space could lead to an intermediate rally. And along with Apple, Google, and even Amazon, we have Microsoft, which is showing real bullish signs as well. We have 5 waves down, a retest, a new channel began, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th wave up. There's resistance up here, but should Microsoft be able to get to 295, you're looking at 313, where the double triple top is up there. Nevertheless, it looks like a bottoming pattern. And obviously a new trend upward. We're above the moving averages, above the trend line, and now we're above the prior highs. We now have 1, 2, 3, 4 consecutive new highs for Microsoft. But this double triple top up here at 294.5 is going to be key resistance, 294. NVIDIA has been phenomenal ever since the October low. This stock's had a monster move, 108 to 274. The 274.5 range is the top of the channel. It's not far from lateral resistance here, and that's a big one at 289. That would be your next target potentially if momentum extends. A nice long-term intermediate type term chart on NVIDIA. Netflix recovering here nicely this week, finally, after looking very negative in terms of the non-confirmation. This has been a laggard. But lately, a 1, 2, 3 has taken it up, and particularly the last couple of days, showing a lot of strength. Just in the last, as I said, the last 2 sessions, it's gone from a close 2 days ago of 293 to a 330 range. And you can see that there's a 50-day moving average and lateral price resistance here. So if this gets over 333, I can see a move to 345 or more. And that would be reestablishing the longer term trend, which is still in place since the multiple bottoms in the May, June, July period of 22, a year ago. Longer term targets, the gap and the top of the channel coming around 445.50. It's Netflix and Meta too, very strong since the November low. Meta's gone from 88 to 210, 208, 88 to 208. It's a phenomenal move. And this is wave 1, 2, and this is 3, 4, and 5 is underway, and it could extend to as high as 240, 45. We'll have to just see. But you know, and if you throw Tesla in, these are the ones we normally follow. You'll see Tesla had the big run from a spike low down around 102, 102 to 217, 115 points. A nice fib retracement, and now it's bouncing again. It's going in. You can see that last week it's been stalled in this area. So anything over 200, 201 should lead to a test of the highs at 217.18, and then the next target is 238.40 and beyond. So very promising, bullish looking charts with new trends in place on most of the NASDAQ 100 leaders, and now you know why that index looks like it does. Let's take a look at some of the major ETFs that we follow closely. Semiconductors having a great time of it, but it did back off Friday. Nevertheless, they reached a new high at 262.5 from the October low of 167-ish. Almost 100 points. And a 1, 2, 3, 4 wave move. The fifth wave is just starting. I think my target is 285 and 320 if we get the big rally that, you know, if we extend and we get a big rally, those are targets. Financials obviously hurting with the banks the way they are, and they look completely different. First of all, the inverse head and shoulder pattern and the rising channel, and a mini head and shoulder here was broken. This was the key breakdown day right there. And this thing dropped nearly 10 points in one day at 2.5 million. Now that led to this big drop from 77 all the way down to 48.86. Now it closed 52.20 on a reversal day, but that's the lowest level on the FAS since way back here in the end of 2020. So, you know, 2.5-year low, obviously negative divergence from the others. And looking at the XBI, which I've switched to, the LABU is just too cheap, and I'm waiting for a reverse split on LABU, which I think may be coming. XBI, obviously in a distinct downtrend, has followed the financials lower, while the semiconductors are holding the market together. Now this has had 2 consecutive updates technically, but I'm going to need this to make a move above 75 just for starters, and then we'll see if we can get it to 77, 79 in that zone where additional resistance is. So the XBI is still in a downtrend, as is the LABU, of course. LABU is suffering a drop from nearly 940, I should say, to 426, more than in half. And this is not what I had anticipated when I saw the relative strength of the biotech index basing for months while the rest of the market went down, and then breaking out. Talk about a head fake. That one day right there, 940, was a breakout day, but it didn't come in at terrific volume, and then it broke down. For me, the stopping point on this one was under 715. You can see it led to 426. So not a good chart on LABU or FAS, obviously. Work to do there. FAS on 5.3 million, which is the biggest volume in a long time on the upside. We traded a move from 48.86 to 52.49 and finished at 52.50, right near the upper end of the range. A nice reversal on the FAS Friday, which could lead to at least a test of 58 in that zone there. Let's just see what happens next week with financials early on in the week. They may tell the tale. Okay, let's look at some other ETFs, particularly gold and silver and oil and gas and stuff like that. Here's GDX, which is showing that gold, which had a nice uptrend beginning, broke down here, and I warned everybody that looks like we're headed lower. We did a very deep 0.618 fib retracement. And had a very sharp bounce the last 2 weeks, taking the GDX from 26.5 to 31.80, with a target now of 33.45 and 35, maybe 36. That's the GDX. Let's take a look at the leveraged NGT and JNUG, both of which look similar, both of which have bounced back up near resistance. If they break through here, your next targets are 45.5-ish and then 53. A nugget. JNUG's targets is 48 and 55. Look at silver, which isn't quite strong, but nevertheless, AGQ had a really strong move. Actually, I think I'm going to take that back. This was even stronger than gold, because if you look at the move from there to there and the rebound, it's had a better rebound. We've gone from 21.58 to nearly 30 into the gap, and basically filling it on Friday. Very, very nice. Love to see a pullback consolidation, but your next target in AGQ would be that complex top period near 34. 33, 34 zone is your target. Another ETF in the silver side is SILV, which has got a different pattern, but it's also up, coming up near resistance, and it's recovered nicely from 5 and change to 7, almost 693. The key resistance to that one is 7 1/4 30, right there. Not as strong, in my opinion, as this one. I like AGQ better. Okay, that's gold and silver. Now, what about oil and gas? Well, how about the USO, which plunged below a multi-month basing attempt or consolidation zone and is mired in a downtrend since June. USO at one point tagged 92 and change. This week's low, 58, 57 and change. Big drop. And I've been telegraphing you this all along. When I told you this was like a left shoulder head, right shoulder complex. The bounce to 76 didn't fool me, and then rolled over to 58. Quite frankly, when we get to this level, we could see something down here. I'm not going to be shocked if this thing gets in the low to mid 50s. My target, 53. UCL looks similar. Downside target about 16.5, 17. That would be because of this, which telegraphs to me that oil stocks in general look lower, and I would be really careful. I'll show you some others later on the short side. Quick look at GUSH, and you can see this one's perked on support. It could get crushed. I mean, GUSH might see 79.80 and could even see 62.3. It's possible. The things dropped from 257 down to 100 and change. And the long-term trend line's been broken. I would say GUSH has a kind of problem that's very toppy looking, folks. On the other side, it is CO, short, and you can see the big base that it built is trying to emerge. Now, it did pull back to fill that gap. Quite frankly, it's an easy stop under 27 3/4. Targets 32 3/4 and 36. Drip is another to consider on the long side. That's an oil short. It's already popped out of its declining top line, out of its base, and retested. Keep an eye on this one for a move to test 19, and then we're looking at 20 and 23. Drip doesn't look as strong as SCO. SCO's got a bigger base too, so we'll see. Now that's oil. And natural gas, look at KOLD. Just when you thought it was breaking down, it pierced the 50, tested the trend line, and bounced only to work its way back up in a steady channel. And so the KOLD go from 41.47 to 72 in about 2 weeks. With that, Boyle crushed to a new all-time low, trading at 389.90 on Thursday and on Friday. And I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole until I see a price volume surge over 4 3/4, just for starters. So, and I think Boyle, as well as LABU, are candidates for reverse splits, so you got to be careful. So that's gold, silver, oil, and gas. And I'd like to move on. There is a bunch of longs that look pretty intriguing here. Let me go over them for you. ACCD, Health Information Technology Services. Really nice base pattern. Multiple tops right here. You can see where it is. Friday it had actually an engulfing bullish day. And if it falls through here, we're looking at 16.5 and 19. Nice potential swing as well. Take a look at the base. ACLX, one of my top picks of the year, continues to consolidate for months now after the big pop in December. But it's a setup that if it gets above 31, we may see a run to 34.5 and more. ACVA, nice base, breakout, wedge, pop out, another coiling wedge type pattern. You can see it's testing the trend line here. What we're going to need on this one is a move above 13 1/4, target then 16. ADMA in a beautiful rising channel for more than a year now. It's literally gone from under $1 to nearly $4. And it remains in a nice rising channel as long as it holds support. Key is 295.3. Target 390 and 5. AEHR, one of my favorites for years now, for 2 years now. When this popped here and had a wedge, we bought it there. Again, we bought it there. Right now, it's still a long-term swing. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and yet the fifth wave consolidation resulted in a breakout, reaching 40.69. I have a target of 46.7 now. In the gold sector, one of the leading goals is AEM, Agnico Eagle, with double, triple bottom down around 44.75, a half, and currently it's near 52. There is a gap that needs to be dealt with right there. That's your next resistance at 54. AGL, look at this long-term pattern. Breaking out late last week out of a year-and-a-half base. You might see a move that takes this one near that level for a test of 34. AGYS, beautiful chart, base breakout, retest, channel up, currently consolidating for several weeks now. If it takes that out, it's got to take it out over 87, 88. Then you're looking at a stock at 100 and 110. AI, well, look at the volatility in this one. It explodes, pulls back in wedges, pops out, and then it's another falling wedge. And of late, it's been moving up nicely. Right. Thursday and Friday's action saw it go from 23 to 26.75, and right at resistance here. Next target, I retested a double top up around 30.5, 31. ALDX, nice rising channel, and it broke through it with a big pop Wednesday and Thursday. We saw it go from 740 to 920. It had a kind of an inside day Friday, but my target remains around 990.10. ALGM, really nice semiconductor chart. Nice base with a retest, breakout, falling wedge. That's 1, 2. This is 3, 4. Fifth wave could get that in mid-50s. In the biotech sector, ALVO, pop wedge, breakaway gap, coil, gap, coil, breakout, and sit here and consolidate. But it had a nice reversal day after breaking support, came right back up again. I would look for this one to make a move to 14.5. That would take it into the high teens, potentially. AMAM with a big pop, falling wedge, and that explosive move. Now a coil. I like to look at this one for 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth wave up to get it to 22, 24. This one could really be a really good number. Maybe double from here. 18 for starters. AMD, after a long downtrend, multiple waves, based, retested, pop, broke out, wedge, breakout, and run. There's some big resistance up here. I'm not surprised it's backing up, but your next target, 109 and 125. ARDX, this low price puppy, what a move. 50 cents to $4. 8-fold increase since last June. And yet, look at this pattern. To me, it looks like 5.5, 3/4 is your next target. Fantastic chart. ARLO coming out of a base and now wedging after a spike up to resistance. As one would expect, a move through 6 gets you 7 and 8, in my opinion. Keep an eye on this one. ARRY. Really like that inverse head and shoulders, put a swing on it. It ran to the target and back and filled now for several months. As a matter of fact, right now, this entire pattern should break out, could lead to a big move, and I'd keep my eyes on this one. Current target, however, would be a retest of the highs at 24 in that area. ASAN. So it broke out, and we put a swing on it, and then it pulled back and flagged. Look at that nice little flag on low volume. Obviously, resistance at 23. We get through that. 27 and 29 as targets. Our targets. ASRT. Strong run up. It's a 1, 2, 3, and 4, in my opinion. The fifth wave could take it at 8, 9 zone. Got to get a pop through the current wedge. Right there. Stop under 5.25, 520. ASUR software started out of nowhere in October when it was trading at under 5, and it's tripled 1483. It looks like a long 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not sure how long the fourth wave lasts, but the next target is 18. ATEC in a long rising trend from the July low of last year at 5 3/4. It reached 1634, and yet it doesn't look done yet. Easy stop under 14, target 18 and 19.5. Recent IPO Atlas Lithium pulled back and then exploded. That move took it from under 7 to 21 for a triple, and now the big wedge. Now, if the wedge is telling me something right, and it breaks out to the upside, looking for 14 points from the pullback low, that would make it 26. No kidding. My target, right there. Keep an eye on this one. Again, we want to see it pop first above 17.25. Another gold I like is AU. Tends to gap a lot, doesn't it? Gap, and hold that level. Excuse me, only to break back out again and run up again. Right now, the target is 23.5 and 25.25 for the next couple of levels of resistance. AUPH, HPLX, this one, we have a swing on it. Friday was a big day for it, up 109, 12%, 8.4 million. Rumors of a takeover, sounds like it could happen quickly. Maybe 12.5, 13 would be my guesstimate. BABA is coming out of a declining pattern, but I'm not clear on this one. I do want to say, though, that if the Chinese stocks run, this could rally back to 98 to 100. BITO, interesting with Bitcoin moving, how BITO, which was a star at one point up in the 40s, dropped down under 10, and then has rallied dramatically. Had a big pullback, a breakaway gap, and a run up that took it from 12 to 17.75. Target 20.5. Big move on Bellerophon. First a pop in January, then a pullback. A nice orderly falling wedge or falling channel. Let's call it a falling wedge. There's your breakaway. Pull back to test the moving average and then vertical. Now a rising flag. This is very bullish. I don't know how far it goes, but I can see low to mid-teens. BKND. Well, with the bank situation the way it is, this is now spiked up near resistance. If it does extend, 17, 18 are your targets. Cardio. Well, cardio diagnostics just went ballistic and then pulled back in a wedge. It tried to break out last week, couldn't get the resistance and backed off. And now we rearrange our pattern to look like that. Remaining in a big wedge, if this runs, we could see a retest of 8.5 or even 10 or 11. CECO is a swing of mine, and it's been a swing for months now, and it continues. But the last look, this reversal there so far has marked a high for it, and it's pulled back. 100% stop under 12.75. 12.90. Certara, this biotech stock has rocketed from 10 to 25, 150% since November, and it broke through the top of the channel recently, only to get to lateral resistance and back off a little bit. But should it get through here, looking at a possible move to 29.30. Vita Coco, V-bottom, platform, breakout, rising channel, and it's just went through lateral resistance here to a new all-time high for the Vita Coco company. When I look at this chart, the first thing that comes up for me is momentum. The new all-time highs in this market is phenomenal. Obviously, they're doing something right. That's the angle of ascent. And if it accelerates, we could see low to mid-20s. Speaking of acceleration, look at Cody over the last, 6, 7 months. This October low, when it really started to move, was right there at 6.25 and November 3rd. And by February 14th, that's 3.5 months later, 11.65. So nearly a double, and it still looks higher. As a matter of fact, it peaked its head out, made a new high on Thursday before, stalling. But right now, the angle of ascent and the acceleration appear to be targeting mid channel at 13, upper channel at 15. CRPB explodes, wedges. Very powerful pattern, which might see 9 and 11. Carvana obviously had the big move in January, pulled back in February, early March. It spiked midweek, got up to resistance and backed off quite a bit. So what to do here? Nothing until we see whether it pops. If it gets across 10, 10 and a quarter, it might be in play again. DUOL. Well, Duolingo is just too strong for me to ignore. After running up into over 200, the stock came down in the 60s. But look at the base, double bottom, and then months later, a retest. Finally, breakout wedge and explosive breakaway gap. Took it right through resistance, and it continues to look higher. Very powerful pattern. Probably going to see 170, 75. That's my extension target down the road. Double verify. Interesting base pattern. Look at the inverse head and shoulders. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and breakaway move on Thursday, Friday. We got a target now, 32.3. EDU, Chinese educational stock, has been powerful all year. From a May low around the 9 range to the mid 40s and now consolidating. If it gets above the mid 40s, you're looking at 58.60. In the gold sector, EGO, low price gold stock has gone from 5 and change to 10. And it's having a bit of a problem at 10 because there's resistance there, which your next target is 12. Swing EHTH. Pop broke out and put a swing on it. It pulled back the test and then ran, tagging both of my targets. I need this to hold 7, 7 and a quarter. Take out 10 and a half, 3/4, and then you're looking at 12 and 15. Interesting little low price biotech stock that went from literally $1 to 2 3/4 or 260, and now it's got this little wedgie. Why did you see it? Because it broke the long-term downtrend, it broke out of the base, it ran up and tested resistance and stalled there. Next targets 3 and 4.5. ELF monster move this year from last May at 20 to 79. Now this is nearly 300% in about the last 9 months, 10 months. And it doesn't look like it's done yet, does it? Big move on an engulfing bar. An upside reversal from 73 to 79 just on Friday alone. Target 86. Enliven Therapeutics popped coil, popped long coil, and then moved up in rising channel. Look at the engulfing bar on Friday. My targets are 25 and 29.30. EOSE, after a long downtrend, appears to have popped, coil, broke out, wedged, and is in a new uptrend. And it looks as garnered by the rising channel, rising bottom. Next target, 3.5. ENTB, love this look. It's one of my picks and it looks good. For more upside potentially. Big day on Wednesday as it popped and Thursday as it followed through. Finally got some profit taking Friday, but it doesn't look done to me. My target, 19 and 22. EXAS, long downtrend, reversed with a breakaway, hit resistance and backed off in the falling wedge, broke out, another flag, breakaway gap and a run up, and now large coils developed in the last 2 months, which should lead to 77 and more. FDMT, one of my picks for the year, has been a slow, steady decline like a lot of biotechs the last few weeks. It's now testing and filling this gap here. I'm hopeful of a move above 19, 19 and a quarter, because that's what it's going to take just to get it back to 25 and then look at 30 or better. First Solar has been just about as perfect a charge you can get. After a coiling base, it broke away with a big gap here, ran up and flagged, and then stair-stepped on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wave move, and yet it isn't done yet. This flag broke out Friday. It gets to the double top, you're looking at 230. Fastly breaks out of the base, runs up, and 3-wave corrective flag broke out last week, and now it's flagging again. You move above 17, which is your next target, gets you to 19.5 to 22. FTNT, I like the base, the breakaway gap, and a consolidation. This is a security software stock that if it gets to here, I think can run up to 70 next. Fusion, nice base, breakaway gap, and a perfect wedge. 1, 2, 3, 4. A fifth wave gets me to 6.5, 7. GANX also coming through a big base after a long decline from the platform and broke out. Held it and popped Friday. I got a target of 6.5, 3/4. GBIO, that was a monster move on Thursday, spiking $1 and change, 14 million, which is monster volume for that stock. And an inside day Friday. Let's see if it has any follow through at all. First of all, we get to 5.25. My target is 7. GBTC, well, Bitcoin's improved to say the least. The long downtrend in GBT, which saw a drop from mid-50s down to 7, 8 range. Popped and coiled, and it popped again and broke out, retested, and then broke out again. I got 18 and 23 as targets. GDX, we showed you. GE, well, how about this? A nice base pattern, a breakout, a retest, a run up, a rising coil, and then another pop and coil. So basically, GE has gone from 48 to 95 just since October. Who would have thunk it? How about GEHS, the spinoff? Since they went public, 53.5 to 79, and now flagging. GOLD, one of the gold stocks we showed you, we didn't show you. Barrick popped above the moving averages and it's consolidating. I think the next move is going to be 20, 21 zone. GoTo, this Chinese stock's had a big run and a rising channel, and now looks like 6.5, 7 is a target. HIMS, in the midst of all of this market, we have a 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I'm not sure this is a head and shoulders, but more importantly, if HIMS gets above 10.25, I would look for 12.5 and 15. HIMX, inverse head and shoulder breakout and coil, looks pretty good for an extension move to 9.5, 3/4. HLIT, a stock I had a swing on here, popped around and now it broke down, but snapped right back. The target is to get the accomplishment it needs to do is get to 15.5, then you're looking at 17.5. HMY, a low price player in gold. Nevertheless, 5 waves up and a pullback, 50% fib retracement, and now another move. In essence, I think this changes its trajectory, but it's still very bullish. And it looks like this. Your next target, 5.5. HROW is one of my long-term picks, and the top pick of the year, and you can see why. Friday was an excellent day for it as it popped up 165 or nearly 10%. I think we're going to see 21 and 24.5. IMMR broke out of a base, ran up and formed a wedge, and steadily broke through. Right now, pressing or testing its highs of the year. Your next target is 9 3/4, 10. IMVT, a top 20 pick for the year, like many biotechs, has slipped back to test support. It needs to hold it at 15. Sorry, 14.5. If it does that and starts and breaks out above 17.5, my target's to 21 and 25. INOD, which exploded, wedged, and popped again and pulled back, definitely looks to me like it has more to go. I have a target of 9. INTA, base breakout and a beautiful rising channel. Doesn't look done, does it? Target 48.50. INTT, surging, spiking, and flagging. Look at that part pattern. Target 26. INZY broke out, wedged, popped and retested, popped and tested again several times here, and finally broke out to a double top. 4.5 and 5.5 are targets. IoT breaking through a base and running up sharply. It's pulled back sharply. It is retesting its trend line. Breaks out of here, we're looking at 24.5. Iridium, beautiful rising channel, looks like it may want to continue. And if it does, the trajectory tells me 70 or better. ISEE, after the big move in September, October, has spent months basing and it's trying to break out a couple times. But what it's done net is form a big wedge. Should have popped that wedge. We're looking at high 20s, low to mid 30s. King Soft ran up, pulled back, held from the wedge or coil, and broke out of that. So the new angle looks like this now, which will put this somewhere around here. So I'm targeting 7.5, 8. KDNY and a consolidation as well. Another biotech stock going through that period. If it holds support, your next target is 28 and 31.2. LNTH, big breakaway there out of a base. You can see how the moving average turned around. How it broke through resistance. Next target, 88, great chart. Mara, let's pull back from key resistance. But my take is that if it gets up to 9, the stock is looking at 11, 13, and 15. MAXN, long consolidation, breakaway pop, and a wedge is formed. If I can get this to hold, that wedge, the move could take it into the low 30s. MGNX, long-term biotech pick of mine, and looks like it's trying to come back out of this base, and if it does explode, and what you want to watch for in this one is a move above 7.5. Once you get that, you can see $9 or $10. MNSO, breakaway move in November. It's been a rising channel ever since. The current pullback is testing support moving averages. If it does hold, your next target is 23.4. MRNS, broke a falling wedge and ran up to resistance that's been consolidating for about 6-7 weeks. The key is going to be getting to 7.5. If you do that, you're looking at 9 or 10. NAAS, big explosive move on Friday, took it up 41%. The biggest volume ever traded for this stock, but only 2.2 million. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder. This is a massive inverse head and shoulders that could lead to a big move. First 7.5 and then 9.5. Neo, a swing of mine. I like the look of it. When it broke out, put a swing on it. It pulled back and then exploded. Ran up to my target, got up to 19.5. Friday was a pullback day. Not sure if it broke or not. We'll see, but I'm still looking for more unless it cracks support. Currently at about 15.5. Next target, 22 and 25. NRDS, beautiful long-term base, breakaway move, and a pullback to test the moving average and a breakout point. It then popped. Should it get above here, I would look for 22 and 25. Navitas, a semiconductor stock that broke a big downtrend and a nice run up from about 3 to 7. It broke out and backed off, but it's still holding the trend line. And if it does extend, I'm looking for a move to about $8. NYXH, something I found this week, big volume and a breakout and pullback, but it's made another move that could extend this one. This is looking much more bullish than it had for a while. My target is 7.5 and 9. OCEA, well, folks, if you can tell me where this chart goes, let me know, because it's this explosive move and falling wedge exploded again with another falling wedge. Right now, it's very quiet. It might be forming another wedge within a wedge, or a coil within a wedge. Let's call that the wedge. This is a little coil. Nothing to do here until I see this get over 8 with volume, and then it has to take out 8.5, the 50-day moving average. Once you get to that zone, I think it pops. 12 and 14 targets. OCUP, nice wedges formed after months of rallying and choppiness, targeting 4.5 and 5. OI pops a coil, breaks out, forms a little wedge, and pops again. Now it's pressing and pressing hard on the trend line here in support. Don't let this one go under 20, 20.5. Your targets are 23.5, 25.5, and 28.5. OKTA, after bottoming with a breakaway gap right there, it's been a slow, steady rising channel. It's seen it go from high 50s to high 80s, and now it's wedging yet again. If we do get a good market, I think this is one stock that can be 95 to 110. ON in the semiconductor group, long-term channel beauty, recently wedging. Friday wasn't a great day for it, but watching this wedge form, I'm looking for a pop first. Nothing to do here until that occurs. If it does, 88 and 95 are targets. ONCY, well, I went long on the breakout. It pulled back and bounced, but I think we were stopped right there. I didn't want to see it go below that. It went slightly below it and then rallied back. Still, the overall pattern of a left shoulder, head, right shoulder intrigues me. This could have a big move to 3 3/4 and even 6. Keep an eye on this one. Might be time to reestablish a new swing on it. ONON, I put a swing on it the day it broke out. It just kept going. It's a beautiful chart and already reached my target near 32.3 by hitting 31.97 on Friday. Wouldn't be surprised to see it pull back or even have momentum to get it further. Next target, 40. OPRA, how about this little software stock that went from 4 actually 392 to a double top near 969. So nearly tripled and consolidating enough to tell me it isn't done yet. Next target's 11. ORIC broke out, falling wedge, and it's popping out of the falling wedge, but it needs to get up through, I would have to say a move through 5.5 with volume would be great. Test targets then are 7 and 8. Pan American Silver is one of my two favorite silvers, in large cap silvers, and that has got a nice basing pattern forming. No brainer target is 19 a quarter. You get through that, it's 21.5. PACB still in play, still broke out last week, particularly on Friday. Didn't get a great follow through from the moving average right there, but let's see if it can get up to Friday's high. If it does that above 10 and a quarter, you may see stock back to 12 pretty quickly. PCVX is one of my top picks of the year, and it's been done nothing for most of the year except consolidating and not testing. PDFS, software stock, ramping, gotten above resistance out of the base here. You can see new all-time highs on this stock. A little long in the tooth and near the target I put out at 42.3. Perion, one of my favorite stocks. Between this and AEHR, they're my two favorite long-term swings. This one's gone from 5 3/4 to 38 and still looks like it's a $45 stock. Outstanding. Roblox, despite the back and forth and choppiness of it recently, it's still holding the trend line. They had a nice bounce off of it on Friday, held the VWAP as well. What you got to do next week is to get to 45.5. Then I'll look at it 49, 52, and high 50s. RCEL, poised on a platform in a coil pattern. When you get a stock that does this, breaks out of a base, platforms, explodes, and does this again, there's always a chance of one more leg up to get it up to 15 or better. RELL, long consolidation in a rising channel. I'm waiting for a pop first above 22.5, quarter half, and then above 24.5, my target. Target's 24.5, 27, and 31. RELY comes out of the base with a pop and continues to channel up. So as a result, my target now is 22. Excuse me, Riot, surge, wedge, pop, got up to near resistance right up in here and backed off Friday. Still, if we hold support in that zone, my next target is 12. ROIV had a breakdown this week, was one of my top picks of the year, but it did follow a big multi-wave move. Consolidation, it looked like it was going to break out, it suddenly broke down. Secondary support must hold, or this is dead to me. 645 is the support. RGB, Red Robin breaks out of the base, stares up its way higher. It's at the top of the channel, but appears to be accelerating. And my next targets are 15.5 and 18. I'm going to show you Schwab. I believe the stock is a victim of the banking crisis, obviously. But I think it's a steal in this pullback. That's my opinion. I may go put a swing on it with some protection, of course. SILX, beautiful run up, large wedge, coiling wedge type pattern available. If it pops with volume above 8 3/4, then maybe we can go to back to 10, 12, 13, 14, etc. SE coming out of a base, formed a wedge, and then popped. I have a distinct target now at 93. Sarah broke out of a base with a breakaway gap and exploded, and now forming a rising flag, that a rising channel that's very bullish. Support about 3. Resistance 4 1/4, and then my target's going to be 5 3/4, 6. SHC pop flag and then exploded. Long flag. 21 is your target. Shopify, big rounding type basis forming, and a 3-wave corrected pullback. A 4-wave move up. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's starting to move back again. There's a little bit of resistance there at the gap. Let's call it 47. The recent high on Wednesday, 47.32. You can get about 47.30. We may see 54.55. That's my next target. Soleno, nice explosive move and run up and now coil. Friday, it looked like it popped out. Something to watch. If this one takes out 250, you might see 3 1/4, 4 or more. Smart sheet, big downtrend, breakaway move, platform, rebounded off of that pullback, and right at resistance now. Next target is 58. Snap, I think a big base is formed, but you can see multiple tops here. Should Snap get above 1270? I think it can go to 16 and even 19. Spotify comes out of a big downtrend, explodes to resistance and backs off. Now it's pushing through. Now it was down on Friday, but I believe we're looking at 140 and 165. SQSP, beautiful basis formed for almost a year. It then popped out, wedged, and then I think I showed you this last week. Look what it did last week. And last week it's gone from 26.5 to 30. Get to that level, you're looking at 35. SSYS in play, maybe a takeover candidate, but I got an inverse head and shoulders. I just wanted to show you the pattern. I'm a believer that you're going to see something in the mid to high teens, if not low to mid 20s. Right up. A really nice little low price stop, a long downtrend, a V bottom, a run up to resistance, and back and fill and a breakout, then forming a wedge here. Targeting 365 and 5. TERM, one of my top 20 picks of the year, is holding up very well so far. And your next target is 15. Obviously, you'd have to retest 11.5 first. So 11.5 and 15 targets, stop under 7.5. Technoglass. Well, we gave you a swing when it broke out. It just kept going. It's been a beauty. From high 20s to low and mid 40s. Now a pullback. Bounced off the 50-day moving average on Friday. That's your support right now, right around 36. My targets are 44 and 49. TGTX breaks out of the base, consolidates, dips and rips, and runs all the way up to the target at 19.5, and it pulls back to form some sort of coiling consolidation in a 1, 2, 3, 4, wave 4. A retest of 19.5, and then a run into the mid 20s is potential. TMDX, beautiful chart. This has gone from literally 10.5, 11 into the 80 range. How about that for a move? 83.48 was tagged, and now pullback wedges form. As long as it holds, it doesn't take out 69. 70 range, I'm good. Target's 84 and 92. UMC, inverse head and shoulder breakout. This is a tech traded swing. It coiled, it broke out. My next targets are 9.25, 3/4, and then 11. VIPs, long base, breakout, and a beautiful consolidation here. Next target, 18 3/4. I like the potential there. VRNA, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the top 20 pick of the year. We got to come out of this and then test 26.5 and rip to 40. That's my target. XPOF, beautiful rising channel. Broke out of the wedge Friday. My target's 33. And YEXD, and then also broke out of the base from the flag, popped again from another one, falling wedge there, multiple waves up. It certainly extended, but momentum could take it to 11. And Zuo breaks out of a base, holds, pops, and wedges. It just feels like a stock that has to make a move to test the 10.5, 11 zone. That's my next target. That's it. On the long side, I have some box of shorts to show you, and we can wrap it up. On the oil sector, you can see why APA, after showing me the bear flag in the 41 range, was I elected to put on my box of shorts list. From 41, it dropped to 31. It then rallied back. It's forming some sort of wedge. Now, Friday was a good day for it in general for oil. I don't trust it. I still think that looks like a bear wedge to me. And if it doesn't break out, the rollover target is 30 and 28. AZTA, from that bear coil I noted a couple weeks ago, it came down to test my first target at 37. If it doesn't break out, it holds this downtrend line. I look for a retest of the 37 range and then maybe something in the low 30s. Billy Betty continues to look like crap. This stock has dropped from, you ready? 348 to under 70. Bounced and formed the bear flag. I don't think it will be done until it gets down to the mid 50s. CF, in general, agricultural input stocks don't look as good as I thought they should. This broke right there. After coming down and forming a bear flag, it broke down again. My targets are 63 at 57. CI was a tech traded swing short. I said when this thing bounced back up here near 300, I said it's probably a short. My targets were 260 and 240. Well, both targets were hit. 240, 150 was tagged on Friday. It did bounce to 262 though. Clearfield. Oh man, does that look bad? And that bear coil there was a dead giveaway for me. That was going even lower at 63. It's dropped into the mid 40s. COP in the oil sector. Bear flag, bear wedge, drop down, snap back, and back off again. So real support is 88. And then you're looking at 80, 88 and 80 are your targets. CPRI. Again, when I saw this gap and bear coil, I said it's a short. 49 to 40, and now bounce what I think leads to lower levels of 37. Crocs, just one I put on my list because it's had multiple waves up. It's forming what looks like a spike high to the top of the channel and then a pull down, head and shoulders type top. Nothing to do here until this neckline breaks. If you see Crocs underneath 109, 110 zone, it could lead to a big drop. First to 90 and then maybe to 83, if not much more. Chevron, another oil that's looking dire, it's in the downtrend. Next target, 141 and 133. DDS came down hard and formed a bear wedge, couldn't get through the resistance, rolled over hard. It dropped from 372 to 300. 295 was tagged. There's support there. If it bounces and fails and rolls over again, your next target is 255. DINO is a tech traded swing short. When it broke down, I think it was here and snapped back. Oh, it was over in this range here. So it did rally a little bit further, but then only to form a new downtrend. Right now, it appears to me that 40, 41, and maybe 36 is your next two targets. DPZ, well, I don't know about you folks, but there's a stock. It was 300. No, excuse me, 567. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves down, but now forming that bear flag from 567 to under 300. Now it looks like the target could be 270, 265 or less. DBN, another oil with a bear flag there, and it snapped back to resistance. Tells me we go even lower. At some point, you may see the stock in the mid 30s. EQNR, declining channel, snap back to resistance and failure. This feels like a lower stock to 24. FN came down hard and formed the bear coil and dropped, and snapped back and failed. It was rolling back down again. My target is in the 97 and then 90 zones. INSW is something new I'm watching. If it breaks here, go short under 40. Then I'm looking for 33, 34 or less. KEYS, another drop down bear coil with targets now at 150, 145, and even as low as 130 eventually. NFE in the utility sector, bear wedge, drop down, retest, fail, and roll over hard. It's at the target. Next target is down around 20. Overstock continues to look lower, and it has for a year. PBH came down, bounced, and now has a big consolidation. Keep an eye on this one. If it breaks down and runs under here, we could see the stock drop to 54 and 48. Plexus snapped down, rallied back, formed the bear wedge right there. That's a tech trader swing short. They came down to test the low and bounce, getting down to 91 from 100. But it's still forming a large consolidation that if it breaks down below 91, we're looking at 86 and even 78. ROSP in the retail sector breaks the topping pattern, snaps back and fails and rolls down, fills that gap right there. Any lower than this, and the stock could be 90 bucks. Two cows, TCX, that dropped from 86 to 21. It's forming another bear flag, so I'm looking for 18, 19. TRTN came down, bear flag, rolled over hard to the trend line, and price support. If it breaks here, you hit it down at 53.4. TTGT, well, I don't know how much more it's got on the downside. It's already dropped from 111 down to 33, but right now my next target is 31 to 28. VICR, bad downtrend. Look at that bear wedge. My targets are 35 and 31. VIR is a biotech that broke down and formed the bear flag here, bear wedge, whatever you want to call it. Next targets are 20 and 18 and a half. And VTLE is one of my tech trader swing shorts here. I believe that was back in January at around the mid 50s. It's dropped down to low 40s with a massive top formation. We could see low 30s or high 20s on it. And folks, that's it for the weekend review, weekend webinar. Let's look at all the technicals, the indices, the components, underlying technicals, as I said, the ETF, the main ones, and some longs and shorts for you. Take a good look at this video several times. There's going to be a lot of ideas for you, and it gets you prepared for Monday. So I'll see you then. Great weekend. Bye, everybody.